Welcome back. Something very strange is going on. There's so much to talk about, so here it is, the rapid-fire version of Israel in context. Besides Glenn Beck holding a huge pro-Israel rally, which you may have heard about, Israel suffered a 3-stage terrorist attack, and over 100 rockets were launched into Israel from Gaza, and there was an Egypt smack-off, and in nearby Libya, rebels overtook Tripoli, and Iran encouraged baiting Israel into war, and a Scotsman's sweaty genitals made national news all within the last week. Okay, so let's break it down. First, Israel suffered a coordinated 3-stage terrorist attack near the southern Israeli city of Eilat, in which 8 people were killed. These terrorists used gunfire, mortars, IEDs, suicide bombs, and anti-tank missiles against Israeli civilians and soldiers. Simultaneously, terrorists in Gaza fired mortar shells indiscriminately into Israel, and at the time of this taping, over 100 Qassam rockets and Grad missiles had been shot into Israel by Palestinian terrorists. Netanyahu instructed the military to make pinpoint surgical attacks, adding that, quote, every possible effort must be made to avoid harming Gaza's civilians who are not our enemies, end quote. The Israeli Air Force did and took out top leaders. Then both governments called a truce, but it was quickly violated when more rockets were launched into Israel. Now, while this sounds like heavy stuff to you and I, and it is, it wasn't for these people in Egypt. For them, it was time to party. This protester was so excited he scaled the 16-story Israeli embassy in Cairo, yanked down the Israeli flag, and set fire to it. And so you're wondering, how did authorities respond to make an example of this vandal? Did they A, sentence him to 30 days community service, B, formally renounce the man's actions, or C, name him a public hero and give him a job, a new home, and an honorary shield? If you guessed C, ding, 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 you are correct. This little pisher is Egypt's new hero. How moderate. Hamas and Fatah's websites also celebrated the killing of innocent civilians, and PA President Abbas was deafeningly silent. And this is shocking because even Arafat had the decency to at least give a perfunctory condemnation. Okay, so I think we've covered it. So now for the shocking part. After all of this, after Israel's neighbors have targeted civilians and murdered innocents, refused to condemn violence and instead celebrated it, after they've glorified and awarded hateful vandalism and incitement, after excessive baiting, destruction, and terror, the story put out there is that Israel is the villain. Yeah, Israel. The U.S. spends 10 years hunting bin Laden before finally getting him, and we all cheer. But when Israel zeroes in and is able to quickly find and eliminate top terror leaders, the UN demands Israel show restraint. What a joke! The Arab League Secretary General even had the chutzpah to call the Israeli Air Force's precise attacks war crimes. But he didn't feel compelled to acknowledge Palestinians' indiscriminate killings of Israelis. What's new? Shmagegis. But look, we hate to end on a sour note. So here's the scoop on those sweaty Scottish balls we promised you. This week, a couple of St. Andrews University students were expelled and suspended for, get this, entering a fellow student's dorm room, rubbing their hands on their genitals, wiping them on the student's Israeli flag, and then screaming for an hour about how Israel is a terrorist genocidal state, and not these guys. The world is seriously upside down.